Jackson, going to cross over the bridge, push on, and engage the Federals at White Oak Swamp, which is where we're going to be heading to soon. And it will be part of the overall fighting of Glendale. It will be one of Jackson's worst performances of worst air levels.
We have not crossed the actual creek bed. That's about 100 feet in front of the bus. But this is the view that many of the Confederate troops will have of the battlefield. It is similar in many ways. Overgrowth, some of the wood lines along the edge of the creek. Jackson's position is behind where we are. Going back past that modern railroad. On the right-hand side of the road, Stapleton Crutchfield, Jackson's chief of artillery, has got here first, early on the 30th. He's discovered this little position. He thinks it will make a fine location for some of the guns, and starts to build a little road to get his artillery up on top of that ridge. It'll be later in the day when Jackson shows up. The two of them have a short conversation. Jackson nods, looks fine, and that's where they will assemble a concentration of artillery.
30 guns.
Oh.
And 30 guns. That's more than the Union have on the other side. There are going to be 2 Union divisions on the high ground beyond us. So that'll be Smith and Richardson's division, and he outguns them about 2-1. Crutchfield will.
Who's the better shooters?
Well, the Union are going to have, technologically, and because of their superior ability to cast guns, the Union will have. The Confederates are still going to have a number of 6-pounder guns. The Union has got rid of almost all their 6-pounder guns. The Union are going to have a lot more Napoleons. And so the Union are going to, the Union batteries have better quality and have better quality guns, longer range, and heavier firing, heavier rounds. So they would be superior. If you capture a Union gun, you would want to incorporate it into the Confederate Army.
As Ed mentioned, there are 2 divisions and another brigade of Union troops on the opposite side. They are the Union rear guard to defend this position. On the left side of the road, as I'm looking straight ahead, would be the division of Baldy Smith, William F. Smith, part of the 6th Corps.
One of the few native Vermonters.
From Vermont. With him is his Corps commander, William Franklin. On the opposite side of the road, on the right, as I'm looking straight ahead, will be a division of the 2nd Corps. Richardson, Israel Richardson. Those 2 corps plus some 4th Corps guys under an officer named Nagley. Those will be the defenses on top of the hill, plus the artillery that Ed mentioned before. Smith's position is on a farm, so there's open ground around his position, as we would be looking towards it. But Richardson is pretty much shielded from where we are. There are woods between Richardson and the Confederate line, especially the gun line. And when the artillery here is put into use, the Confederate artillery, they won't have a very good perspective. They won't be able to see Richardson's troops. They'll have a better angle towards Smith. Now, I want to introduce Ed. We cannot come to White Oak Swamp without Ed telling his Baldy Smith story before we fight this battle. Ed, this is you. Tell us about Smith prior to the battle of White Oak Swamp.
Can't think of what it is.
Nah, you can't think what it is. You think I set him up for this, and I didn't. Well, I will give you a cue. I'll give you your cue. He was engaged prior to the bombardment that takes place.
Okay.
Do you remember?
Yes.
Can you tell the story?
No.
I don't remember the details.
You doesn't remember the details. Okay. Prior to the Confederate bombardment that we can talk about, Smith had decided he wanted to clean up. So on this farm, the Britton farm, he found a wash house of some sort, bathhouse, and proceeded to take a bath.
Yes.
And as he was in the middle of his bath, he heard firing. It was the Confederate artillery bombarding his position. And he said something to the effect of, I got dressed in as quickly and as graceful manner as possible and returned to my troops.
Yeah.
Am I close?
Yes, very close.
Okay, good.
Now, Richardson doesn't know he doesn't have long to live. He's going to be killed at Antietam. He's a West Point graduate, farmer up in Michigan, entered service. He has a very swarthy complexion. Soldiers in his unit have two names for him, Fighting Dick and Dirty Dick. Because he has a very swarthy complexion. And he's considered a real comer if he hadn't been killed at Antietam. Engineers had built a bridge, a bridge the Confederates had destroyed earlier. And they'll build the bridge, and they'll destroy the bridge when they come here. And of course, since they have destroyed the bridge, they're in position there on the high ground. Jackson is going to have to he wants to do a recon first. So he's going to, they look at it, and they, after some debate, they'll finally decide, yes, the water is not too high to take their horses across. So when they cross the river here on the recon, find the Union position, Jackson will be accompanied by D.H. Hill. They'll also be accompanied by Colonel Tom Munford. Munford is colonel of the 2nd Virginia Cavalry. He is unlike Bob Crick. He's not an admirer of the Lees. He'll take his regiment across, the 2nd Virginia Cavalry. They'll go across there, and the Union, undoubtedly Smith's guns, since they're in a better position, open fire, and both Jackson and Jackson and Jackson and Hill and their staff officers will come back across very rapidly. Munford, however, stays over on that side. Munford comes back too. And Munford is going to do something. He's not going to write a letter and tie it to the church. Munford is going to look for a crossing. That's what he's supposed to do. And he's going to go take his cavalry out. They're going to stay on this side of the river, this side of the swamp, and about a half a mile downstream. What do they find? They find a place where you can cross infantry. Yes, they found a place where they could call infantry. Malvern is probably very, very unhappy when he comes back and reports that to Jackson, Jackson is much more interested in other things than seeing if he can get if allowing Munford to take his cavalry unit, which is not very large, but Munford's convinced that he can get his men across, and there's enough room over there to get infantry across and get infantry across there. So he's very dismayed a little bit. Now it's going to get worse because Wade Hampton, who is then an infantry commander, he's not a cavalry commander. He's recovered from being captured in a wound, and Hampton's going out looking. He's also very interested, and I don't think Hampton's a great admirer of West Pointers anyway. He's physically a brute. The best fight you'd like to see between two men in the Confederate Army, if they're going to use violence of their fists and such, would be Forrest versus Hampton. And what does Hampton do? He finds another spot. And he's a South Carolinian. He's from that other mountain of conceit that bounds that
Valley of Humility.
fair of despond. And he comes back. He does no more than our friend Jackson. Jackson may be by the time he gets back. So as the day progresses, now it's going to get worse. Crutchfield is going to fight an artillery duel with the Union guns over there, but about 4 o'clock, they begin to hear heavy firing coming in from the south and west. Then it starts off and builds in volume. There's a big battle going off to the southwest, and no action on Jackson's part, and finally, Sedgwick. Finally, they'll call for men of the Second Corps, who were commanded by who are Second Corps people. General Sedgwick will call up here. He's down there fighting, and he's going to tell Richardson to let's be reinforced. So they're going to send men down from here. Are going down to the Union is now in a very difficult fight down at Glendale, and is Jackson moved? No, he is not moved, and the Union are building up, are being reinforced from up here. So and you've got, we'll focus on the other one, probably either from the bus, probably with just the bus stop, and talk about our friend General Hugh, talk about our other friend, you see, General Hugh G. He's already on the list pretty much, and he's going to have a big problem because he's coming down the Charles City Road. He has crossed White Oak Swamp. He has a brigade of troops, and Slocum is watching that place. Now, Hugh G is supposed to be the trigger, in a way. He is partway between Glendale and where we are. And he finds that Slocum's men have blocked the road. They're cutting trees, driving him down the road. So he puts a bunch of his men to opening a new road along in parallel with Slocum's people, falling trees across the Charles City Road, and you can damn sure cut down a tree a lot faster than you can cut down a tree and open a road to it. So he's going to be moving very, very slowly, cutting a new road, aiming for Glendale, and of course, he's going to start hearing the firing around 4 o'clock, and he will continue to spend most of his time opening a road and moving slowly. So I would, if I was Lee and knew this, I'd really be tearing my hair out. You've got Hugh G racing, finding out who can fell timber faster, who can fell timber and open a road. You've got another guy thinking about tithing for the church and catching up on sleep. So, and I can just, I'm sure Longstreet particularly was furious over this. And any other, and probably he'll be AP because he has a hot temper.
Yeah. And this is where the big picture, using your maps especially, trying to see how Lee's plan is coming together. Remember, the scattering Confederate troops. Jackson and D.H. Hill behind us. Stop dead in their tracks. They're out of the concentration that Lee had envisioned somewhere congregating at that Glendale intersection. Now, as Ed was talking about, Hugh G on the Charles City Road, he was closest to Glendale, and that's why he's so important. He's also the link between Jackson on one side, where we are, and Longstreet on the opposite side of Hugh G, coming from a different direction, all trying to congregate. But without Hugh G's enthusiasm and aggressiveness, he is out of the picture. And that affects what happens at the Battle of Glendale. Let's talk a little bit about Jackson too, a little bit more, because as far as his conduct and what he did or didn't do, it really culminates here in what happened at White Oak Swamp. The fact that he was caught napping by one staff officer during the day. That evening, as they were eating supper, he fell asleep, supposedly still with a biscuit in his mouth, around the campfire, and woke up and turned to his staff and said, "Well, now let's go to bed and we'll take care of these people in the morning." It worked to that effect. What was going on? And I think we touched on a lot of the factors already. But they seem to have all come to a head at White Oak Swamp. He is exhausted. He doesn't have a lot of his other staff here to help him, like Hotchkiss. He just seems to kind of shut down and does not pursue aggressively what I think Lee had expected of attacking and advancing against this rear guard. And all of that plays out on the 30th. While the other action is taking place elsewhere, and the main fighting will now be done by just Longstreet and D.H. Hill at Glendale. And yes, I think Ed is exactly right. Longstreet he must have harbored a lot of ill will towards Jackson, because it came out in his memoirs years later, where he kind of pointed the finger at Jackson and said if he had only been a little more aggressive, that might have changed the outcome of this battle. Yeah, sure, you can what if to the end of time, but I think he harbored that animosity.
And you can see even Freeman, who loves the Confederates dearly, and particularly Virginians, he has to go, he and Lee's lieutenants, he has to admit this is the one time if everything had worked right, they could have really hurt the Army of the Potomac badly.
one of the great chroniclers of Confederate history is E.P. Alexander. And his works are a must-read to really get a first-hand account. And when he described the action here at Glendale or Fraser's Farm, if you're of a Confederate sympathy, he said this was probably Lee's greatest opportunity to not just defeat, but destroy a large part of a Union army. A lost opportunity.
Is it D.H. Hill that gets into the fight down there, or A.P. Hill?
The fight at
Glendale.
Glendale.
AP.
It's A.P. Hill. Did I say
A.P. Hill.
D.H.?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for correcting
It's
me.
AP Hill.
Yeah.
And again, the president is sticking his nose in the business. He's down here, and Lee he and his staff, and probably Lee worried. The one that's really concerned about that. He's got Lee and his staff. He's got Davis and his staff, and they're right in the beaten zone where the Union artillery fire is falling.
Where is Lee at this time?
Lee is going to be. He's going to be over on the Long Branch Road.
Long Bridge Road. Well, he's with Longstreet and A.P. Hill.
Okay. So he's close. He's close
I
to
can see.
Longstreet.
Yeah,
In distance.
yeah, he's very close. He's right
distance.
there with him. And they're all together.
They're all
Him and Davis and A.P. Hill, they're all gathered together.
Yeah, you can just imagine Lee, particularly when Longstreet and Hill are doing pretty well. They're going to capture a number of Union batteries. They're going to have them. They have the Union on the defensive. They're gaining ground. They're capturing guns, and nothing is happening.
Mm-hmm.
That's yet to come. Okay, more questions?
What we have here is the after twilight battle at Savage's Station on June the 29th, 1862. The Union Army of the Potomac abandoned the remnants of its line in front of Richmond, retreated south through the darkness towards the James River. Once across White Oak Swamp, it deployed to challenge the Confederate pursuit. General William F. Baldy Smith and General Israel Richardson's divisions occupied the heights in front of you. Show it there. And Confederate General Stonewall Jackson's 25,000 men arrived here on the north bank of the swamp at noon on June the 30th and found the bridge destroyed. The noise of the heavy fighting 3 miles southwest of Glendale made me eager to press forward, Jackson later wrote, but it did not advance instead of settling for an artillery duel. Vague orders, the burned bridge, and the strong Federal position held Jackson back for the remaining 8 hours of daylight. The failure to advance robbed Confederate General Robert E. Lee of his offensive punch, allowed successful Union defense of the roads to the James River, and opened Jackson to criticism.
Malvern Hill was an ideal defensive position, surrounded by open fields of land and with steep slopes on fielded forest rock. The hill was easy to defend. Fifth John Porter commanded the Union troops there. He placed nearly 40 cannon across the hill, stretching from the Cleveland to beyond the west. Union gunners, armed with enormous rifle guns, provided support from 30 guns recognized the power of the Malvern Hill position, but he was anxious to follow up his advantages of the past week. Frustrated by McClellan's program on the battles of Glendale and Malvern Hill, please take note of your present location. By June 30th, 1862, the 7 days' battles were nearing their close. Lee's Confederates had attacked McClellan's Union Army east of Richmond at Beaver Dam Creek on the 26th, at Gaines's Mill on the 27th, and at Savage's Station on the 29th. With his supply line to the Pamunkey River severed, McClellan chose to abandon his lines near Richmond and regroup his army at a new base on the James River. Most roads to the James converged at Glendale, a tiny community 4 miles north of the river. On the morning of June 30th, Union troops approached the crossroads on their retreat. They took up positions on the Charles City Road, the Long Bridge Road, and the White Oak Swamp Road. Confederate infantry pursued closely. If Lee could place his troops between Glendale and the James River, the Union Army would be in grave danger. Stonewall Jackson, with 25,000 men of Lee's army, arrived at the smoldering ruins of White Oak Swamp Bridge before noon on the 30th. 2 divisions of Federal infantry blocked his path. Jackson opened a tremendous artillery barrage that drove off the Union batteries, but he chose not to force a passage of the swamp. The right flank of McClellan's perimeter around Glendale remained secure. Jackson's failure to cross White Oak Swamp was only one of many disappointments for Lee on June 30th. To the west, along the Charles City Road, Slocum's division stopped a Confederate column led by Benjamin Huger. Inconclusive fighting continued there all day. Lee's only remaining hope was 2 divisions led by A.P. Hill and James Longstreet. Pushing up the Long Bridge Road, they struck a division of Pennsylvanians commanded by George McCall. Bitter fighting raged on both sides of the road. The center of the Union line collapsed. Hooker's division, posted in the woods northwest of Willis Church, counterattacked and helped drive back the Confederates.
Willis Church right there.
Fresh troops arrived on the field for both sides. The stage was set for a desperate conclusion to the battle. Lee launched a final fierce attack. The open fields on both sides of the Long Bridge Road echoed to the roar of cannon and crashing volleys of musketry. Prolonged hand-to-hand fighting swept back and forth through the fields surrounding the Whitlock House. Darkness ended the combat. The Confederates captured 16 cannon, but failed to cut off McClellan's retreat. Combined casualties in this battle, called Fraser's Farm in the south and Glendale in the north, numbered about 7,500. Under the cover of night, McClellan shifted his army once more, this time to Malvern Hill. There, on the morning of July 1st, he formed his lines and hoped Lee would attack. The Confederates followed cautiously, marching through the June 30th battlefield on their way south. Malvern Hill was an ideal defensive position. Surrounded by open fields of wheat and with steep slopes on 2 of its 4 sides, the hill was easy to defend. Fitz-John Porter commanded the Union troops there. He placed nearly 40 cannon across the hilltop, stretching from the crew house to beyond the West House. Union gunboats, armed with enormous rifled cannon, provided support from Turkey Bend in the James River. Lee recognized the power of the Malvern Hill position, but he was anxious to follow up his advantages of the past week. Frustrated by McClellan's escape at Glendale, Lee hoped he could deal the Union Army a serious defeat before it reached the river. The Confederate plan went into effect in the middle of the afternoon. It called for an artillery bombardment by Magruder's guns near the Carter's Mill Road and Jackson's cannon at the Poindexter Farm. Their crossfire was to silence the Union guns on Malvern Hill. Lee then intended to throw his infantry in a direct assault up the hill. The bombardment failed. Federal gunners replied with better cannon. They fired better ammunition, and they profited from better training. The combined power of nearly 40 Union cannon all but silenced the Confederate artillery. Lee's infantry attacked anyway, thrown into the assault after a series of misunderstandings. Some regiments charged across as much as 1 mile of open ground. Union artillery blasted them with fire so loud and so constant that its roar could be heard as far away as 100 miles. Wave after wave of piecemeal, disorganized Confederate attacks surged up the hill, only to falter and recede in the face of a tremendous fire of both artillery and small arms. No Confederate reached the Union gunners. Twilight attacks by Magruder's men approached the yard of the crew house. They, too, ended in failure. Despite its victory, the Army of the Potomac slipped away from the battlefield during the night. Reaching the James River, it marched downstream to its new base at Harrison's Landing, 12 miles away. After 7 days of battle, at the cost of 35,000 men killed, wounded, and captured, the campaign was over. It would be 2 long years before the Union Army threatened Richmond again.
The wall and give you a closer look of what is the Nelson Field. And then we'll get your maps out and put you on the battlefield. I'm going to use for orientation 24, map 24 in your packet. So follow me, just a little, it'll grow back. Map 24. First thing we have to do is find north. Hang on a second. Hang on.
A little red hand.
Further left. There you go. When you climb some mountains up in New Hampshire, this is nothing.
There you go.
How many of you guess that way?
That way.
Yeah.
Hell if I did.
Son of a
Man, I always get screwed up out here. Here you go. That's north. So, orient your maps. You point them north. I know you got to put them upside down, man.
No.
Not you, me.
You have to put it upside down. We're okay.
Yeah.
I want you
We
to
stand out
find,
of the wheat.
start out with Glendale. Find the intersection.
Okay.
Glendale intersection. See it?
Yep.
Dead ahead. I want you to go south. Past Sedgwick. Keep going south until you see Dana on the road. And off to the right of Dana, you see Nelson. That is the Nelson farmhouse that existed at the time of the war, and it stood, you see where... couple of trees still standing
That's right, yeah.
in the field. Can you see there's 3 or 4 trees still there?
Yeah.
The house site is right near those trees. And that is one of the key landmarks on the battlefield when you start to try to orient where you are. The house was used as a headquarters. And that's where Sumner is spending most of the day of June 30th. Behind the Union line, Union troops had spread out around that crossroads at Glendale. Directly across the street from us, you would have been looking at Fighting Joe Hooker's troops. On the opposite side of the Willis Church Road, we couldn't see him necessarily from here. There were some woods that would be blocking his view. And then as you swing around, you'd connect to McCall's Pennsylvania Reserves, and then you'd be up close to the Glendale intersection. The line keeps arcing around till you come to some of Kearny's troops of the 3rd Corps, and eventually wrapping all the way back up to the Charles City Road that we just came down, where you'd run into Slocum's troop. But this, you are looking at, this beautiful piece of property is part of what has recently been added to Richmond National Battlefield Park. This was part of what the trust had been able to purchase and then turn over to the National Park Service. And I just look at that map. Get a little excited here. Look at the blue.
Yay.
Look at what's been protected.
Yay.
When I came here in 18, whatever it was, nothing. This is not a national park. I think I've already said that. The cemeteries are under the VA. There was no national park here. There were signs. Hey, how was Glendale Battlefield? Great, got to see the sign on the side of the road. Good God. Now, and we're only at the beginning. This is the start. You have to keep coming back here to see what's going to happen. Ed and I, and Eddie and I will take you to at least part of the battlefield. We're going to walk a key part of the battlefield when we leave here. But it's not developed. There's no trails. There's one sign on the battlefield put up by the trust. We'll see that. I'll take you to that. But it's just a special place to be and gives you a chance to see what's been happening out here. And
the main thing to talk about here is Sumner's presence and about where his people are going to be. Now, one of his divisions is one of Sumner's divisions is going to be up there at Sedgwick's one of his divisions is down here, and you can see Sedgwick is the other. Richardson belongs to his division, and you're going to see down here. We see Sedgwick is down here, Uncle John, and there you can see they're going to be moving. These are the guys that are going to get really beaten up in the West Woods, and that's Sedgwick's division. Bull Sumner leads them into. Sumner doesn't do too well at there. He's not doing too well here. He's kind of largely not making any decisions, and when McClellan finds he's here, McClellan is not very happy when he finds out that Sumner is here. He's the oldest corps commander in either army. He's even older than Theophilus Holmes, who seems to be senile, and Sedgwick's division is here. And you can see that he has the same brigade commanders almost as he has he goes into the West Woods. So the only thing is, for the guy from Minnesota, Gorman is not here. Sully, the grandson of the famous painter, is then commanding the brigade with the 1st Minnesota yet. So that's there. And also something to get on here is the brigade command that we have. The brigade command is here by Burns. Burns is going to be commanding the brigade that I got asked some questions about. The Burns' brigade is going to be the Philadelphia Brigade. It's made up of the 69th Irish Regiment, 71st Regiment. More than half of them are from the state of California.
Really?
And that's what I'm going to have to explain here. Then they have the 106 Pennsylvania, and the 69th, 71st Pennsylvania, and 72nd Pennsylvania. Now, the one that you saw that has the abbreviation, the old abbreviation for California, they are formed and represent the state of California. Senator Baker, who represents New York, California, in the U.S. At the U.S. Senate, is a very close friend to Lincoln. So close he names his second son, Edward Baker Lincoln. And he's a White House guest all the time. In fact, they practice law together in Springfield. So he plans to have a California brigade, but he never gets enough men that would come from California or call it their home to even make a full regiment. He gets about 400 men, and their official name will become the 71st Pennsylvania, parens 1st California. That answers the question I got asked by several people here, and that's and they're here, they're engaged, they're not going to take the real heavy casualties, but you see who they're moving in to replace. They're replacing Sumner's brigade, who would be in McCall's. You don't want to be in McCall's division. You're going to get the daylights whaled out of you, almost every one. He pays the supreme price. Meade will be badly wounded, but he's going to live to become commander of the Army of the Potomac. But General Sumner is going to be killed in the fighting. And he is going to be, when they form up there, he'll be the brigade back behind Seymour and Seymour's brigade. Sumner is actually commanding the Reynolds brigade. Reynolds is in Richmond, being entertained as the highest ranking prisoner they've captured. So these will be reaching later, and they'll be joined by Richardson when he comes down here. So this is and they're going in here to because McCall's division is going to be really slammed. McCall will be wounded and captured. Meade will be badly wounded. Summers will be badly. He will pay the supreme sacrifice. It's a Union initial position held by McCall's brigade division is going to get really battered, mauled, abused, whatever you want to say.
Bad news. Where is McClellan?
On the boat.
On a boat trip.
McCall will never, after his exchange, he'll never get another command. He's an old man at the time he's captured.
Actually, McClellan was here very early in the morning of June 30th, and he was having a conference right here with some of his leading commanders.
In his mind, he's very upset when he finds the senior man. McClellan will be aboard the Galena on this night, and I say, there's that officer there, just a typical naval officer. He would be eating off fancy china and everything like that, and drinking good wine while the people are. And then he suddenly realizes, who's the senior man there? It's Sumner. he does not have a very high opinion of Sumner. So he's going to send a message back to tell somebody else, tell Sumner to turn it over to somebody else.
You know what? I don't think anybody ends up being in overall command. The same thing that happened at Savage's Station happens again here. McClellan's on the field,
yeah,
and then leaves.
And I don't think he didn't ever issue an order placing Sumner in. Sumner simply assumes
he's senior.
Thinks he is because he's a senior officer.
Yep.
Sumner, and of course, a few remarks about Sumner. He was known as has two nom de guerres. He had been in the Army ever since 1819, and he's known as Bull because he has a loud voice. He's also known as Bullet Head because in the Mexican War he had been hit in the head with a musket ball, and I'm going to say with no apparent injury.
That's the key.
No visible injury. Huh?
This actually takes place late in the day. As some of the fighting is time to ebb down. And this is when, as Ed mentioned before, troops under Sedgwick had been here. They had been called by Franklin, who's up there at White Oak Swamp. I need help. So 2 brigades of Sedgwick march from here to White Oak Swamp to support Franklin. And then when Franklin decides that they're no longer needed, they turn around and about face and march back here. It's a hot day out. And you've been going back and forth, how many miles between here and White Oak Swamp? It's at least 4 or 5, I would guess. They're pretty tuckered out. But then they arrive on the field, somewhere out here. I'm seeing them right in front of us somewhere. And then they will be ordered forward across the road for some of the final assaults that take place right before dark. I brought with one of the soldiers here who was in the 19th Massachusetts. And if you really want to pin him down, you have confidence in the map, you can find Dana. That's the brigade that he served in. And if you look on the map close to Dana, I think we can find the 19th Massachusetts. Find it just to the right of the Nelson, right and above the Nelson House. It's an arbitrary position.
20 Massachusetts with it.
Yeah, 20 Massachusetts, another.
And that brigade is get beaten up very badly in the West Woods, where Oliver Wendell Holmes, who is with him here, that's where Oliver Wendell Holmes will get his second wound of the war, and his worst wound he gets of the war. And he's undoubtedly shot friendly fire by somebody in the Pennsylvania brigade, which is 40 yards behind him, and firing volley fire as the Confederates are beating up on Gorman's brigade.
Let me share something with you. This is from Captain George Batchelder, the 19th Massachusetts. And he wrote this letter on July 10th. So it's about as immediate as you can get to a first-hand account. He's describing forming here prior to making that assault across the road. There before us is a large open field, slightly undulating, stretches for half a mile, bounded on 3 sides by dense woods, in which the rebels lay, and in which the fight was going on. We then advance in line of battle at the double quick, and we are halted within 20 yards of the woods. He's talking about going across this field, across the Willis Church Road, to the opposite side, and then advancing in that direction, which would be northwest, towards the Confederate troops. Through the woods. Through the woods. We're going to go by there eventually. It's all open fields now. Woods at the time. We halted within 20 yards of the woods and we were ordered to lie down. In about 5 minutes, we were dashed after into the woods. He says that Colonel Hanks took us up in superb style, commanding officer, and General William Burns. Ed just mentioned Burns. General William Burns dashed along in front of our lines before we entered the woods to encourage and inspirit us, waving his hat, his sword, and cheering like one demented. His head bound up from a wound received at Savage's Station the night before. 'Twas grand, he said. 'Twas grand. Batchelder survived the attack, went with the army to Antietam, where he was killed in action at the Battle of Antietam. We're going to head back to the bus. Orientation. And right now I'm using map 25 in your packet. Point north. I think the hands going up are pretty good.
Still that way.
It's still that way, hasn't changed.
Hasn't changed any
Yeah,
yet today.
yeah. And those that were on my bus have heard me. You'll hear it again. On the map, you need to find Meade. And that represents our position. Take these maps with a grain of salt. They're okay. They are pretty. They got lots of nice features showing where the recent acquisition of land is. Okay, yeah, we'll move on.
All right. There are other things.
Yeah. So don't take it to heart, a lot of the stuff. But in this case, Meade's location is pretty close. You are looking at the battlefield from the Confederate perspective. So when the fighting is commencing, you would be part of some of the earliest fighting. You would be South Carolinian. And Micah Jenkins Brigade. And Ed and I are representing the entire Pennsylvania Reserve. Overrepresented. And that line of McCall, George McCall, will stretch from just beyond the little Long Bridge Road across this field, ending up several hundred yards beyond what are now woods. And I'm going to take you to the far end of the Union line when we leave here, at a place called the Whitlock House. There was an actual farm not too far from where we're standing, and I can take you to the site of where that house was. We'll begin the battle there. For here, it's to get your bearings, find those landmarks. If I can find it. I don't know if Whitlock's is on here now.
Yes, it is.
There it is.
I found it a moment ago and now it's lost. I found it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found it. Then I lost it.
Kind of in the lower center of the map. In the big block there that's representing Kemper's attack. You'll find it right there in the middle of Kemper's attack. Whitlock and a black block. That's where we're headed when we leave here. In defense here, go ahead, Ed. Yep.
So it also indicates that Whitlock, Kemper goes forward with that arrow, and then that dotted arrow indicates he's going back.
Yeah, yeah. back where he started. To put the lines on the field for you as best as I think they were, but I'm here, so you get my opinion. I think that
Because you'd be giving them a little difference than me.
yeah, well, what you see on the map. Right now, best thought is the Union artillery position, which is in front. The reserves, the infantry, they're all in support of McCall's guns. That artillery line is somewhere next to that large tower, steel tower. Not this one, the next one. That's where I envision the Union artillery, and there will be 5 batteries. 5 batteries supporting more than 20 guns. They will start on the road. First battery, Lieutenant Randall, U.S. Artillery. Lieutenant Amston, part of Easton's, he's commanding Easton's battery because Easton was wounded there at Gaines Mill on that little knoll on Adams Farm. He's got 4. Randall's got 6 guns, Napoleon. All the rest are rifles. Then you've got Amston, probably in sight of where we are right now. And then you have James Coper, Pennsylvania battery, 6 guns going into the wood line. And then finally, 2 more batteries of 20-pounder Parrots. They were called the German batteries, because of the men, of course, that were working those guns. Diederich and Kiernan. Forgive my German, it's not as good as it used to be. But those 2 commanders have 8 total 20-pounders. Behind you, Longstreet's command. And in support of Longstreet here initially will be A.P. Hill. Those 2 divisions, roughly, oh gosh, how many troops? Somewhere in the 20s, I'm thinking 20,000 plus, and that have been brought on the field.
And this is still solid woods in through here, kind of?
The biggest difference is the open ground. It was far more open. This is a huge field for the farm that was here surrounding Whitlocks. And McCall described it as being roughly 500 or 600 yards wide and a little bit even bigger in length. So try to expand your vision of a much wider open field. And that is the obvious reason why McCall stuck his artillery and infantry out here, because it was right up, back up against where the woods began. Because just beyond that gun line are the woods that blocked our view from the Willis Church Road, which is directly in front.
One question.
Yes.
The trust sometimes tries to, before they turn it over to the Park Service, tries to remove the timber, get some money from that, and without having to jump through government regulations, can remove the timber much easier than we can.
Make some money off these pines.
Yeah.
But they didn't do it here.
They didn't do it here. Okay. A short walk to the Whitlock House. This little depression for your bearings. And if we were standing at the Whitlock House at the time, small frame structure, we could look off to my right and front, your left, and you would see those 2 German batteries. They were within probably a rock's throw of where we're standing right now. Okay. Ed, you going to call a Kemper for us?
All right. Now the Kemper's brigade was a comparatively large brigade. It is raised, as you can see. Kemper's brigade is Virginia Brigade has some regiments that are well known. 1st Virginia is well known. 7th Virginia, 24th. This is in essence the brigade that our good friend Jubal Early commanded at where we met them at Williamsburg, with Virginia regiments replacing the North Carolina regiment. So that's in essence the early brigade, with some difference in regiments there, and also the brigade that originally belonged to Longstreet. I see Longstreet original brigade ones in there. This brigade is going to date back to 1st Manassas. So they're an experienced brigade, and so they have, but they did not do very well. They took very heavy casualties, particularly the 24th Virginia at where we were 2 days ago. And so they're going to be Kemper's brigade. And you can see they're going to be supported by Branch's brigade, and they're going to hit the Union, wherever you say. Now the brigade, you can see where they got. You see that good German name there, Diederich. That's the German. That's the German battery. It's a strong battery because it has 20. It gives the Confederates good 20-pounder parrots, and they could have. They're going to capture how many did they capture that?
Between the 2 batteries?
Yes.
There were 8 guns, and Confederates ended up capturing 6 of the 8.
Yeah.
Of the 20-pounders?
Yes.
What a
6 of them.
score. That's great.
Those are the same 2 batteries that
Probably
were
the only
firing on
20-pounder
Longstreet.
parrots the Army of Northern Virginia is going to have with them for a long time. That's what you can see. And and then they're going to run into, they're not going to be able to, if they got them all, that dotted arrow wouldn't be coming back there. That shows that Kemper's brigade is falling back. And who can we see? They're going to try to go further, and they're going to run into Seymour. Seymour would be on the extreme left of the of McClellan's brigade.
Right here. Right where we are.
And Diederich's off in this direction up here?
Probably a little off in this angle.
More like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So when did these?
You can also see the brigade we mentioned that my colleague did mention when we were over near the wall. That's Jenkins' brigade. Jenkins' brigade is a very good brigade. It's from South Carolina. Jenkins is a graduate of the Citadel, and you'll have the privilege of dying when Longstreet is wounded. And of course, it's at the Wilderness on the 6th day of May. And at that time, so we won't mention anything about the Wilderness, but he's killed instantly. And he'd started a boys' school up at Kings Mountain. And that's where he enters the Confederate service from. And he's considered a very good leader. He also becomes Longstreet has proteges, and he's very loyal to him. So he would probably be even more of a protege of Longstreet than Pickett. Pickett is also a Longstreet protege.
I wanted to switch over just real quick and mention the Union defense. We talked about the Confederates and Longstreet, A.P. Hill, about their numbers. Best guessing on McCall's line is 3 brigades, or what's left of them, because they were hammered pretty hard at Gaines Mill as well. McCall would write later that he felt he had somewhere around 6,000 troops on the field. He started out with close to 10,000 when he first got on the Peninsula. And he's telling us he had maybe 6 or thereabouts in those 3 brigades fighting here. Ed was talking about Kemper. That is the first of what could be considered an endless number of attacks and counterattacks. From the point of that first attack, and now it's later in the afternoon, it's 4 o'clock or so, when Kemper comes forward in that time range.
Name who he captures then.
Kemper?
Yes, he was around the last time.
Where's that?
Here.
Here?
He's
Go
going to, because the Alabamans are going to capture that battery first.
The German battery?
No, the ones up near the crossroad.
Oh.
The one they do the drawings all the time.
Randall. Yeah.
Kemper, because the Alabamans captured first.
Yeah, you're right.
And then Kemper.
Mm-hmm. But Kemper was down here, and I think he got into these guns down here.
Yeah.
I think he got into these guns first. And no sooner did he get here than he ran into some Pennsylvania troops. And I just wanted to share a little bit of Kemper's report describing that first initial assault against the Union line, and he's describing the attack. He said the advance continued to be conducted in good order until very soon, coming upon the pickets of the enemy and driving them in, the men seemed to be possessed of the idea that they were upon the enemy's main line. And in an instant, the whole brigade charged forward in double quick time with loud cheers. Nothing could have been more I shouldn't have tried to start that. Chivalrously.
You did it. We know.
Something else was tempting to come out there, but I didn't want to go there. Chivalrously done. And nothing could have been more unfortunate. But a single idea seemed to control the minds of the men, which was to reach the enemy's line by the directest route and in the shortest time. So their charging came out of the woods, across the open field, driving into Seymour's troops, driving them back off this little knob, the anchor of McCall's line, down through these, what are now woods, but were open then, across the creek and off the field. And those guys ran, and they didn't stop running until they ran entirely through. Hooker's line was on the opposite side of these woods. And that itself turned into a controversy because Hooker saw all these guys running at him, and he accused McCall's men of being nothing but cowards, running from the field. And of course, McCall got angry about that, and so they got into an argument back and forth, and so it goes. But that initial assault was effective, but it was almost instantly followed by a counterattack by Colonel Simmons. Colonel Simmons, Seneca Simmons,
yes,
who took command for Reynolds after he decided to go to Richmond early. He laid the counterattack back across the open fields, driving Kemper's men from the field and reaching really the far end of the field before he stopped. At least one of his regiments said, "Holy cow, we're the only ones here." And then they fell back. And it's just going to keep going on and on.
When he falls back, he's going to get KIA'd.
Seneca falls. Simmons falls back, and as he's falling back, trying to rally his troops, he's struck on the field and mortally wounded. He survived for about a day. It was said by one who was here that he was brought to a nearby house being used as a hospital. Well, what's closer than the Whitlock house? Nothing. I can't prove it definitively, but boy, I damn sure think this is a good candidate for where Simmons was brought and where he eventually died. His parts of his uniform were removed. Some of them were saved and returned to his family. But there was one piece that wasn't. It was his sword. His sword was taken by a South Carolinian, and it was given to Micah Jenkins. And he carried that sword. And he was wearing that sword the day he was killed.
And the reason he gets in,
Really?
he gets thrown in, because when they advance, they have when they're moving forward, the division of McCall is going to be. We've already met who's on the extreme left. The one in support of them is Seneca Simmons, and on the extreme right is General Meade, who's going to get wounded. I question how bad he's wounded, because he's going to be at Antietam.
Yeah, he's back.
And yes, and he's riding Old Baldy. Apparently, Old Baldy survived more wounds than General Meade.
All right.
Elite GAR post in Philadelphia will get the corpse of Old Baldy when he dies.
Yes.
And they decapitate him. And he was on their place of highest honor in the clubhouse of the most elite GAR post in Philadelphia. Then a blue collar post is going to take one-upmanship. They're going to buy the longest-eared mule they can find. They're going to put him to death. And then they're going to mount his head. And he goes into their lodge. And that's an in-your-face to the lodge that has old Baldy.
Question about
You didn't know that story?
I did not. I've never heard that. That's bizarre.
question about your maps here.
Right.
Map 22
Map 22.
shows your
Sandbox.
buddy Magruder coming in on the right of Long Street, but he
Mr.
ain't here. Where
Magruder ain't here.
is that?
Thank
time?
you. Do not forget Magruder.
Yes.
He has been making a loop march, and will be coming, marching first to the west and then back to the east, and he'll be coming up behind Longstreet and AP Hill. That is until he's redirected by Longstreet. I don't need you up here. Why don't you go down there towards Holmes and see if you can't be of some help down there. So all that marching, and some have estimated at something like 20 miles or so that day from Savage Station down here. Back and forth from here to there. At the end of the day, Magruder will end up back here on the field. Fighting's over. And for all intents and purposes, his men have not fired a single shot.
He's probably taking a little opium this day, too.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Oh, yeah.
Still there. All right, we're going to head back.